communications team, and I'm delighted that you are joining us for this session. For those who attended this morning's session with our Chief Executive, Doug Umbers, one of the really exciting things he talked about was the stand-up of a new division within Dstl, Exploration Division. And a key facet of that, one of the key teams in that, is our Science and Technology Futures team. And so I'm now delighted to hand over to Sarah Herbert, who will take us through today's session. Sarah, over to you.
Hello, everyone. I'm wondering, before I start, can you see me? Otherwise, I'll just turn the camera off.
Yes, we can see you.
Oh, right. Okay, sorry for that then. So yes, good morning. I'm Sarah Herbert. I'm the Programme Manager for Defence S&T Futures and Dstl. I plan to provide you with an overview of the programme's vision, how we realise it, some of the exciting work we're doing, and where we need your help. Next slide, please. So why have a futures programme? The quote here from the late Donald Rumsfeld, the then US Defence Secretary, explains it well. Essentially, our job is to try and make sense of the unknown unknowns, and this is critical for UK defence. Next slide, please. Thank you. Future threats and opportunities haven't always been predicted in the past. The Germans did not anticipate the development of the bouncing bomb, and this disrupted technology was a game changer for the Allies in World War II. If the Germans had predicted this novel weapon and countered it effectively, the outcome of the war may have been very different. So this was an opportunity for us, but a game-changing threat for Germany. Threats and opportunities aren't always new. Sometimes they are everyday technologies being used in a different way. The use of the aircraft to attack the World Trade Center and the Pentagon profoundly changed defense and security across the world forever. A US study about a decade ago identified a range of sources of surprise. We tend to default to identifying emerging technologies, but there are others. Sometimes it is a technological breakthrough, things happening more quickly than we expected, or technologies being used in unanticipated ways. And finally, threats remain threats even when they're forgotten. The idea of domestic vehicles could be used to attack people is not new. It happened as early as the Second World War. It seemed to be largely forgotten as a threat. In 2016, these attacks seemed to spark renewed interest in this type of threat, as it requires no training or experience. Next slide, please. So we are enhancing how we understand the future by responding to strategic drivers. We emphasize the need to understand the future and identify, nurture, and fund beyond generation after next science and technology, as well as pulling through emerging technologies and concepts through demonstrators, experimentation, and better exploitation. So in direct response, in April this year, Defence S&T Futures Programme and Exploration Division were created. So I'm going to cover the programme next, but the division's purpose is to discover things that nobody has done before, and so that's through our horizon scanning and technology watch capabilities. Access new ideas of their credibility and potential for disruption. Consider the rapidly changing geopolitical and technological landscapes. Promote, exploit the best ideas to ensure that decision makers can take timely action. Next slide, please. So this is the programme's vision. It's to make sure defence is better prepared for the future through revitalised investment in S&T futures activity to identify potential, incubate and rapidly test hypotheses and promote emerging insights of generation after next science and technology. The programme is tasked with creating strategic advantage and addressing defence risks through the exploitation of an evidence-based understanding of the potential impact of emerging insights from the global S&T enterprise. Next slide, please. So the S&T Futures Programme will be the engine room for change. We're providing decision makers with evidence from across the S&T enterprise, which includes this audience. And we will generate and test hypotheses for defence to understand the impact and provide options for investment. Next slide, please. So this is the programme's design. At the high level, it creates the building blocks of identify, incubate, promote, and S&T futures capability. So as an overview, we start with horizon scanning and technology watch and other methods to identify the beyond generation after next unknown defense potential game-changing future threats and opportunities. We create a hypothesis, an idea on the basis of limited evidence we have found as a starting point for further investigation. And via the triage board, these hypotheses are taken forward into Incubate to build the evidence for and against that hypotheses. The outcome is an investment or rapid disinvestment. Throughout this process, the work is promoted at various times in various ways to influence those decision makers. Underpinning all this is capability and science intelligence, which is required to deliver the program, including machine learning techniques, knowledge management, and training. Next slide, please. So we have many tried and tested methods, and we've carried these forward into the new program. But what we need to do is supercharge them, improve them, or maybe replace them. A couple of examples I'd like to draw out in particular is the need to develop more creative ways to communicate, and that's to communicate the future and better ways for people to understand impact. Long reports need to go, and we need to replace by movies, cartoons, short stories, or virtual reality. And we need to increase access to topic-specific expertise. Fundamentally, we need to fresh insights and access to niche knowledge and skill sets. And we've recently seen this increased impact that can be achieved through working with non-conventional suppliers, and it is something we're passionate about pursuing further. Build, please. So the programme itself has £90 million this year, and we're anticipating contracting out work equivalent to 40 to 60% of our total funding. So quite a lot of EMR for our programme. Next slide, please. Our projects are not traditional. They vary in size, timescale, and cost. And that's to quickly identify the beyond generation after next science and technology. So what are the benefits and outcomes for suppliers? Well, clearly there's a benefit, a financial benefit, but also the opportunity to co-develop activities with world-class scientists and practitioners. You'll be encouraged to work creatively with imagination. You'll be helping shape the future. You'll be influencing strategic decisions. So I think I've told you enough about the benefits of working on the programme. Now I'm going to move on to the areas of interest and hopefully where you can support. Next slide, please. So here are some of the areas. They are at the highest level, and we want to be able to give you greater insight, but currently we do not have a fully endorsed list of topics I can share with you today. But we'd like to develop a two-way conversation where we can let you know what we might be investing in next, so we can have a dialogue with you around where capability sits with you as suppliers and how we might best access it. Next slide, please. And we're not just interested in technologies. We need to understand the future operating environment, global trends, interests of others, what research and development is being undertaken by you and other sectors, as well as the ethical, moral, and legal implications. Next slide, please. So an example of where we have engaged with suppliers differently was the Museum of the Future. This is a full virtual reality experience designed to bring futures to life using immersive ways to tell the story of future possibilities and demonstrate methods and tools to help the user think differently. So for telling the story, the museum includes short films, augmented reality equipment, and stories designed to bring those ideas and concepts of the future to life. And we're also thinking differently in there. We've got board games, card games, and online bots, all designed to help the user and others to consider ways to provide insight about the futures. And all of this is underpinned by the research we do. So our challenge, future is hard to get your head around. So we need to be able to communicate to all aspects of users in a way that enables our decision makers to understand, care, and do something about it. The impact is if we get this right, we can influence decision makers to make the changes now. And the outcome, the museum provides an interactive platform to demonstrate methods and tools to help the user think differently and identify futures in a novel way. Next slide, please. Another example is our work on teleexistence. This is a technology that allows the human operator to project themselves to a different environment. The technology enables the user to experience and interact with that environment as if they were physically there, but remain in the loop. This is achieved through using a remotely operated system. The challenge is teleexistence will help us with how we deliver global effects, and it's an increasing complex environments that whilst protecting our people. The impact is if we get this right, Mod could be an early exploiter of teleexistent capability, reducing the risk to our people and increasing our efficiency on operations. So the outcome, to understand the art of the possible, we ran a Defence and Security Accelerator call, so a Dstl call, to research for teleexistence technologies. So we had 7 companies and 2 universities that made up 11 projects with Dstl, and they allocated 800K to them to research. And then the Nuclear Decommissioning Authority, NDA, also provided an additional 150K to fund the proposals. So we'll be holding a face-to-face, the face-to-face demo was postponed due to COVID in this month, and it will be placed again in October. But we were able to hold an online demo last week for all the technical team to work on to progress the work. The main aim is for a face-to-face end to tell the story, to start influencing decision makers, ensure end users know about the future that they could have access to. And for us, face-to-face event will provide wider and more important evidence to build that case for investment. And this can then move forward into research and into applications. Next slide, please. So I'm really fortunate that the Defence S&T Futures programme has a number of existing routes to markets and frameworks. And we're thinking creatively about how we contract and putting in place new approaches that will increase how agile we are and with engaging you, because we want you to see us as an exciting, inspiring and creative place to work, and celebrating and bringing together diversity of thoughts, minds and perspectives and views. We also want to seek the best and the brightest minds, working with traditional and non-traditional mod suppliers, pushing boundaries, working on ideas nobody has worked on before. And we want you to see us as curious, exciting and enthusiastic and uncomfortable with working with complexity. So there are a whole range of topics that we need to work on, and we need your help to provide us with this unique expertise that we don't have in defence. Next slide, please. So these are the ways that you could get involved. So we're really interested in hearing about your future threats and opportunities. If you want to know more about the programme itself, and as I said, those topics, and be added to any routine communications from the programme. So we are planning, we need to, an increased engagement with suppliers as the programme matures. But if you've got any questions at the moment, please use this email address. They're just noting it's got a couple of extra EMs in there. And also we're holding a search-like event in the week commencing October 18th. So we'll be presenting there as well, so you can provide us with more questions. So that's me. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Sarah. Right, we'll go through to the Slido screen, please. So just to go over some of that housekeeping, if you want to submit a question, please go to slido.com. And then if you use the code DSTL-1145-ST Futures, then you can come through and you can ask your questions and rate and rank your colleagues' questions as well. I think what we'll do, Sarah, just to start with, there's a bit of a theme around about SME engagement and how you contact sort of Dstl personally. And then there's also some questions about sort of past experience of trying to engage as an SME with Dstl via Dstl. Now, I know some of those questions about acquisition reform and new ways of sort of contracting will be addressed at a later session by commercial colleagues. But I wondered if there's anything you can say about the ways that your program is looking to do some of that engagement with small and medium-sized enterprises.
So yeah, exactly. So one of the things that I've got in the program is a dedicated team looking at the frameworks and routes to market that we currently have to see how do we do this, what is in there that we're currently not doing, the ways to engage with the subject matter experts, the expertise that we don't have. So we're planning to hold some other events. We're trying to, as I said, think differently, but right now I suppose it's the question for later on.
Excellent. And as I said, we will put the email address into the message chat during this session for those who want it. And also, again, another shout out, there will be a series of SME Searchlight events after the summer. And so do keep your your eyes peeled on details coming out from us about those. Right, we'll take another question from the list. So how does the S&T Futures Programme fit in with the other DSTL research frameworks or programs with overlapping scope?
Yeah, we won't necessarily have any overlapping scope because the Futures Programme is to look for those things that nobody else is doing. But what we do need to do is work with those other work with the other programs very early on at that identify and incubate phase. So they are our exploitation path. They are, we're creating that case for investment, case for change, and then it's up to those programs then to take that forward via the approval from DST. So that's our commissioning part of the mod.
Excellent, thank you. I mean, you did mention there are some details about Museum of the Future there. Is there anything that's in the public domain that's able to be shared on that programme at all?
I believe so. We've come to many events. We were at DSEI. So I believe so, and I'm happy to share.
Chris, we'll take that as an action to come back with you with some information that we have on that. I believe there are various things on gov.uk and others online that we can find. Right. We'll now take the next one. So, is there anything we're able to define in terms of the envelope to make a proposition interesting? For example, that would you be interested in power sources that provide X kg per kg, for example?
So yeah, I mean, anything that I guess we want all those blue sky random ideas that people haven't thought of yet. So for the power sources example there, there might be technologies that we don't need to worry about yet because something, an enabler hasn't been created, or it's like a battery doesn't go long enough, isn't light enough. So we are interested in all aspects because it might trigger a load of things that we've dismissed previously because they weren't ready yet. Whereas if a power source then meant that technology would become a future threat or opportunity, then we definitely want to know about it.
Okay, interesting question next. So obviously that we do talk a lot about SMEs, but also how about non-SMEs? How about some of those sort of larger businesses and organisations that may not traditionally have a defence background or consider one of the defence primes? Is that an area that you're interested in looking?
Absolutely. Sorry, it's about nature working from home. That's okay. Yeah, absolutely. So the thing about futures is we want people with different backgrounds, different thought processes, different views and aspects of looking at the situation in a different way. So, if people who haven't worked with defence before, we definitely want you, because you might go, why are you doing that? What's different? Have you tried this? They're exactly the kind of conversations and people that we want to engage with.
Excellent, thank you. Right, let's get the next one. Other than DASA, what are the other DSTL defence? Sorry, has that one changed? So, are there any other frameworks that you work in across in the DSTL framework? Sorry.
Yeah. So our primary ones are no, hang on. Sorry, I've forgotten. I don't know if anyone else in the call. Just 1 second. I think they are. Astrid, R Cloud, as well as DASA, and we do have the BAYES Futures Procurement Framework that we work to as well.
Okay, thank you. So can we subscribe to communications from DSTL Futures? I suppose this is an area that I think is getting off the ground, but I don't know if if there's any more specific that you can tell us about.
No, I mean, that's one of the key things that we want to do. So again, we want to be sharing with you those the topics of interest that we're looking at, to see if you can provide any insights or recommendations, or so yeah, that is something. So for now, if you're using the email address that was at the end of my presentation, and then we will record that, and then we'll make sure that we start to send out information to you.
Okay, we've got another question from Chris Daniels here from Flarebright about SME Searchlight. Now, Sarah, I'm happy to say a bit more about this, unless if SME Searchlight, is a program that DSTL has started to really sort of up its game in terms of engaging with SMEs. Now, the program will be running after the summer, which we'll be designing in the next couple of weeks, will be a follow-on to this, and it's seen as more of a sort of a deep dive than the sessions that we have today, which, you know, are fairly top level, setting out a level of the ambition, giving some of our thoughts and some of those priority areas, and we really are looking to start sort of developing it and taking some of that work in a sort of a two-way dialogue further on. So if you look out for those, I think they should be really worthwhile. But essentially, it's a scheme that Dstl runs in terms of that extra sort of closer engagement with SMEs, sort of not too dissimilar from that, but like a complementary sort of scheme that we run alongside in terms of that to really sort of make sure that we are bringing in those best ideas from a varied background of suppliers, and trying to sort of get out and reach those who may not sort of traditionally work with us as well. Right, we'll take a next one. So how is the S&T's Futures team building its picture of future capability needs, and how will that be shared, and can it be shared?
So as I mentioned, there's a strand on the program which is capability and S&T intelligence. So that piece is about, you know, fundamentally there's a whole capability that supports the whole program. So that is fundamentally the telling the story, the tools, the methods that we have. So you know, I don't think there's an issue with sharing the sort of things that we're doing. So again, I guess it's asking the question, and we can come back to you with that.
Thank you. Does the Futures program have any interface with the Future Lab at DE&S?
I believe we're starting to, but I'd have to look into that.
Okay, thank you. Right, there's a question here. So you showed in one of your slides the types of S&T we are interested in. So we included robotics, power AI, sensors, and so you said we're not in a position to provide more detail just yet. But is there anything in your planning that sort of suggests, you know, sort of when we may be in a position to build on some of that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think one of the things is that the program's 4 months old, so we're trying to build all those communications and as well as my one of my colleagues suggested, we're trying to fly the plane and build it and design it at the same time. So there's some aspects of that when part of the commercial, getting the communication piece out. So that is, you know, after the summer, we want to be able to provide with clear products that you can have access to.
Excellent. So next one is, will these slides be available after the event today?
I believe so.
Absolutely, we'll be making these slides available, and also it's our intention in the sort of coming days to put out a bit of a roundup from sort of what we've learned today, links to the videos, links to presentations, and then sort of a few bullet points of some of the key points that our speakers have been making. So, you know, we hope they'll be able to circulate that out to you all, and do keep an eye on our feed, our social media feeds, our website, and we'll see if we can circulate that through ADS to you as well. Right, next question. When do you expect endorsement of your broad target list for S&T interests, Saitri? I think we've covered that one, haven't we? So we'll move on to this next one. Okay, so how do
Oh, sorry there, you've gone for me, Rob. So can anyone speak?
Sorry,
oh.
I'm back
okay.
on now. Okay. So how do we as SMEs inform you that when they've got blue sky technologies in the pipeline? How's the best way for them to contact you, send information to you, and how?
So I guess in the short term, again, it's using that email address that I had at the end of my slide. But then once we get the proper communications and our outputs out to you, then we'll give a clearer guidance on how to do that in a slicker way.
It's fine. And just to re-emphasize, I have put that email address into the chat function if people are looking for that one. Next one. So can you tell us anything about the requirement for security clearances to get involved with Futures program, and if so, you know, would you sponsor that if they are a requirement?
Yeah, I mean, because Futures is, you know, it's so far in advance, you know, there's a lot of what we do is looking at official work. You know, it doesn't tend to go up to the high security level. So there will be aspects, I'd imagine, but, you know, largely our work is, you know, official. So, but if the need was there, I'm sure there's something we could look to do that.
Okay, thanks. So Tim Tozer's question, I think, Tim, what I'll do is I will refer you to ask that question of our commercial colleagues in the session this afternoon. They'll be able to be best placed to answer some of those ones. So please do feel free to pose that to them in that session. So yep, if you take the top one, please do register interest with us with the email I've put into the chat.
Yes, I think it's slightly spelt slightly wrong.
Yeah, that's fine. That's the correct one. What we'll do, we'll correct it for the slides going out to you as well to make sure. So the correct one is the one that is in the chat function. Right, coming down to Ed Dodwell's question. Hi, Sarah. I think there may be some overlap with other frameworks. There are other frameworks looking for research and technology we aren't currently aware of. Will the S&T Futures team look to engage with the strategy, planning, and tech watch activities of these frameworks?
Absolutely. So as I mentioned, we've got a dedicated team that are looking at all the frameworks across not just the Dstl but mod as well, because we have access to those, and seeing how we can best use and engage with those quickly and agilely and effectively.
Thank you. Now we've touched upon this next one, so we go down to David Lever's question.
Okay.
So from S&T Futures perspective, how is manufacturing technology adoption addressed within this Dstl area? I would be keen to discuss this further with your area of Dstl.
Okay, so I guess we wouldn't necessarily be, the part of the program is to maybe do a concept piece, but we wouldn't necessarily go through them. Oh, I think I understand the question slightly differently now. Sorry. Yes, that is definitely something we would like to, an area that is useful to discuss. So again, if using that email address, sorry, I was looking at it from a different perspective.
That's fine, thank you. So the question from Trevor K. If the overwhelming majority of businesses in the UK are less than 5 staff each, please think of normal sized businesses, not SMEs, as if they were something exceptional. How will you protect and reward IP of new suppliers?
So I think IP is probably a question for this afternoon, but we do have different DEFCON 703 and 705, so that's part of the contracting, I believe.
Absolutely. And Trevor, feel free to pose that question to commercial colleagues this afternoon, because they will be the ones who are best placed to address some of that.
But I guess, Trevor, I understand your point. I guess we are trying to target, not just individuals. We do want small businesses or normal sized businesses, as you say. We just want all aspects, all views, and to support us.
Absolutely, thank you. So I think someone's just asking if you could repeat the frameworks again that we work with.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Asteroid, our cloud. The other was DASA, and then it's the BASE a framework that we have.
Thank you. So question from Adam Staines.
Oh, wait, sorry, it's a BASE Future Procurement Framework, if that helps. Sorry, BEIS.
Excellent. So a question from Adam Staines. Are you also still interested in linking the technology to the person? Example, for teleexistence, looking at behavior, cognitive load, and the human-machine interface, and so forth.
So yeah, so there are other programs in Dstl that look at that. So I guess if it's a futures aspect to that we're not already looking at, then yes. But I think that's probably more suited into another part of the program that we have.
Okay. And will the S&T Futures program also be looking at exploitation of the technologies and ideas that you uncover, so through DNS, frontline commands, or industry primes? I guess we heard from Doug and Nick Joad this morning about that emphasis on that pull through. So how will your team be playing into some of that, do you think?
So as I said, we will, the part of we're doing is creating that case for investment or case for change. So at that point, we would hand off to the program that would then deliver that, would have that engagement with, deliver through the DNS. But the frontline commands piece and that we will be engaging with them in that identify and incubate stage. But the actual exploitation for us is into the program to carry on the exploitation into sort of a wider piece.
Great, thank you. So I think we've got a question that's asking you about the BEIS future procurement, or the BEIS future procurement framework. I wondered if you could tell us a bit more about that. I mean, I guess I should say this is BEIS as in the Government Department for Business, Energy and Innovation and so forth, isn't it? I don't know if you can tell us any more about that.
No, I'm afraid that would be a commercial question. I apologies.
That's fine. Well, we can pick that up in a session this afternoon. So question here about more, I guess, the sort of the organizational setup. So are you able to sort of tell us a bit about that relationship between the S&T Futures program and sort of the wider exploration division?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have different divisions or departments in Dstl, and exploration division is the new one. There are 3 programs that sit under it, and S&T Defence S&T Futures is one of those. So we're closely I guess aligned to the same vision, but we're delivering an aspect of it. So for example, our focus on this program is defence. Exploration division is for defence and security. So they are kind of part of each other, but also doing things slightly differently.
Okay, excellent. Some of the questions have jumped around on the screen, so we'll try and. There's a question here about Serapsis. Are you on? Is that one of the frameworks you use, Sarah?
It will be, yes. It's just not one of the ones we have used yet.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. It's a question from Ed Dodwell. Will SME Searchlight be pulling in the SMEs already engaged with existing frameworks? Ed, I think the answer to that simply is SME Searchlight will be open to any of the organisations that want to go to that who were classed as SMEs. So if they're already engaged in existing frameworks, and they feel that they will benefit from that session, absolutely do sign up. But it will be sort of very much a sort of an open house rather than sort of a closed session. We really are trying to sort of open up those, get rid of those barriers and open up so people can come in and understand more about the work that is that's going on and what is required to do. Right, let's take this one. I see it's a question about technical readiness levels. Are you able to give us an indication about sort of what level you're looking to, what sort of TRL levels you're looking to engage with regarding your comments around battery evolution, for example?
Yeah, so for technicals readiness level, I guess it's you could say futures is 1 to 4, but I guess for us, futures is very different for very different things. So and as I said before, we might be looking at things that are already out there but being used in a different way. So the program does look at the lower TRL stuff specifically, but we do kind of consider everything at the same time.
Excellent. Again, I think sort of recognizing that the program is only a couple of months old and we're building upwards. Do you have any plans that will enable collaboration between SMEs, for example, introducing organizations working together in a similar domain?
So we have done things in the past where we've worked with universities. With Cambridge, where we've brought, they have a community and they bring different expertise together to help us solve a problem. So we have got examples of that, I suppose, and that's through a route. But yeah, it's definitely something that we should take that point actually away and make sure that's something we consider doing.
Excellent, thank you. And so drawing on one of the examples that you gave today about the work on teleexistence, someone here has put that sort of they worked on this program, had a great experience of working with DASA and Dstl. They're curious to learn whether or not there's anything you can say about whether there's a next stage or how that work is progressing. I'm not sure if you're in a position to say anything about that at this stage.
Well, I do have Melissa on the line. I guess the key thing is that we're holding that sort of open, face-to-face demos in October time, so that will be an opportunity. But I'll hand over to Melissa to say a little bit more about it.
Hey everyone, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hi. Yeah, so there is the intention to do and answer the question, so what? We've identified the technologies now, how else can we use them and what else could we use them for? And so there is a plan to do that, but we want to do that based on what we think is out there and what industry and what people can already do and what problems you can solve whether it's as an individual, a small or a big company. So we just want to make sure we ask the right questions of that. But that is certainly the intention, is to keep moving forward and keep looking at how that human fits in with that system and what those future things we might need to do with that are going to be, and then look now for the things that start that. Over.
Thank you, Melissa. Melissa, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I just wondered whether or not there was, anything else you wanted to share about any of the, in terms of success stories you've had during that program, and sort of any sort of lessons that you've learned that you think you're really going to be taking on sort of as part of the Futures team. I was wondering if there's any more you want to sort of tell us about that experience at all.
Of course, yeah, and this is ever so slightly the world according to Melissa, but one of the things that we found that surprised us the most was, excuse me, some companies were great at collaborating, creating their own teams and trying to solve problems between different areas. So our original question was, is this possible? But actually some of those teams self-formed and said, actually, if we can connect these together, we can solve some of those problems. And when we realized that was a potential in the assessment phase, and then as we were working with some of those companies, it was really great to see them doing that. So that's, I think, what we want to take forward is, if we can solve some of those problems, or you can tell us that we can solve some of those problems, then we're going to be very interested, because we can then go, and what about, and can we add in, and is there something else that we could do with that? So that open and collaborative perspective in those team working areas, I think, was probably my favorite thing, but probably one of the things that made that a success was people solving those problems and then telling us they have, and then showing us that they have, which is great. So that helps us understand how we might use that in the future, but also we can push a little harder, if you like, and say, okay, what else can we solve? Because that culture is there in the companies that are interested in this and that have come forward. The range of technology, I think, as well, that was fascinating. It was very, very hard to down select. And that's always where I think we want to do it all, but we know we can't do it all. So that was hard.
Thank you, Melissa. Sarah, did you want to come in off the back of any of that?
No. I think that Melissa's covered it off really well. So I think, yeah, there's things we learn all the time with the work that we do on futures and engaging with suppliers. So that's one of the reasons, again, why I said we've created a sort of dedicated team to make sure that we're using everyone in the best way and learning from those lessons, good and bad potentially.
Great, excellent. Thank you for that question. Again, we've got a couple more here grouped around sort of the frameworks and the accessibility and stuff. So I think, please do pose those questions into the commercial session this afternoon. They'll be the best place to answer and to raise some of those issues. So we'll take those later this afternoon. If we go down to the third question on here, then, so I guess this is more of rather than a question, it's probably more of some feedback about how a networking event of some kind where attendees actually get to speak to each other would probably be really productive. I mean, you've already said a bit about some of the intention there. I don't know if you want to just maybe pass a comment or something on that point that the delegate makes.
No, I mean, in sort of the previous Futures programs, we had planned events where we get suppliers to come and see and the work that we've been doing and to comment and to sort of build those relationships. Obviously, with COVID, that's been put on hold, but in this program, that is one of the core outputs, is to have that supplier event so that you can come and ask us questions, about what we're doing and how to get involved. So I think, it does prove really productive. I mean, we have been at DSEI events and we will be again this year. So that's another route as well.
Great, excellent. If we jump down to I think we're sort of getting through these questions now. I mean, the top one I think we've already touched upon again. It's one which I think commercial colleagues are best placed this afternoon. Ed, in terms of the communications about SME Searchlight, I mean, certainly we will be looking to, not only put general communications out, but trying to get the teams who are already signed up to frameworks about putting that out there. So it will be a sort of a dual approach. So, but do feel free to engage with me or anyone in the team directly if you need some more information about that. And then finally, our last question here is just a signpost to actually the DASA. For those who don't know, DASA is the Defence and Security Accelerator, and it is a sort of a fairly new part of MOD that looks to find and fund innovative solutions from a broad range of organisations to solve defence challenges and do it quickly, whilst also supporting UK prosperity. And as Sarah and Melissa alluded to, that is one of the routes that this programme has used in the past, and I suspect, without wanting to preempt anything, is likely to be exploring in the future. I don't know if there's anything you wanted to finish off on, Sarah. Otherwise, I think this session is wrapping up.
Yeah, only to say, thank you for those who've joined the call today and to listen. And the key thing is we want to engage with you. And I can understand there's some previous, it's difficult to engage with MOD, but we are, the point of today is that we are trying new ways so that we can do that, because we need your help to deliver, what the future is going to look like with your expertise.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, everybody, for attending today. It's good to see such high numbers of you, and thank you to Sarah, Melissa, and the team behind. I'll just hand back over to ADS for any further housekeeping.
Great. Many thanks, Rob, and of course, many thank you to Sarah for giving her time. So we are now moving into the lunch break, and so we will be reconvening at 1:15, where we go through the final set of plenary sessions. For those of you that were in the main morning conference, you're probably noticing that your Teams is pinging. So my colleague Christine is very kindly putting in the next set of plenary sessions. So at 1:15, we have energetics, the future is explosive. At 1:30, we have delivering at machine speed. And at 1:50, we have transforming cyber resilience. So please feel free to have a look at the links to that if you haven't already signed up to one of those plenary sessions. And that leads me to thank everyone for their time and to enjoy their lunch. And we'll see people back for the start of the plenaries at 1:15. Thank you.